The storm lasted all night. Peppa and George were very scared. They could not sleep and were trembling in fear at the sound of the thunder. Usually thunderstorms are harmless and children shouldn't be afraid of them. But on this day, the consequences were worse than just a lack of sleep for the children. During breakfast, Grandpa Pig noticed that the children were in a bad mood. So he suggested that they have a good time by visiting the Monkey Trees Adventure Park. Peppa and George, in spite of their tiredness, cheered up because almost all their friends had visited this park, and now the day had come when they could visit it themselves. After a hearty breakfast, they all went to the park together. As soon as the children arrived, they ran out of the car and headed deep into the park without waiting for Grandpa Pig. After walking a little deeper into the woods, they met Miss Rabbit, who was working there. She began to give the children a briefing. Miss Rabbit assured Grandpa Pig that the children had been instructed and were ready to climb the tall tree. Grandpa Pig stayed at the bottom to take pictures. George asked Miss Rabbit to take them as high as possible. He was fascinated by heights and extreme sports. Peppa was uncomfortable. She was afraid to go to the high tree, but she wanted to be with her brother. Miss Rabbit called the children to follow her, and together they began to climb to the top of the tree. Finally, they reached the right height. However, as soon as Peppa looked around, she was immediately overcome with panic. She hadn't expected it to be this high up. She wanted to suggest George come back down, but the shock prevented her from saying anything. Besides, she knew George likes heights like this. While Peppa was in a daze, the caring Miss Rabbit had already buckled the safety belt around her waist, and with Peppa's acquiescence, pushed her forward. She began to pick up speed quickly, screaming with fear. At high speed, she caught on a protruding ledge in the rope. Peppa was terrified, hanging over a huge chasm, everything beneath her feet starting to go down. It seemed to her that she might fall any minute. At that moment, George was flying directly behind her. As he accelerated, he crashed into Peppa. Miss Rabbit had not followed the safety rules, launching George without waiting for Peppa to reach the end. The rope was damaged by lightning from yesterday's storm. They should have stood still and waited for rescuers, but Peppa was terrified and started swaying from side to side, which put stress on the rope. Grandpa Pig saw his granddaughter's skinned arm sticking out of a thorny bush. He quickly ran over to rescue Peppa. George was still conscious. He had managed to grab onto a tree branch in flight. All he could do was watch in horror as Grandpa Pig tried to save his sister. The situation was exacerbated by the fact that due to the devastating storm that night, almost all rescue squads were busy. The nearest ambulance was very far away, and the roads were washed out. George couldn't hold on forever. After a few minutes, his arms became stiff and his strength waned. Luckily, Grandpa Pig and Miss Rabbit had managed to put the boxes from the warehouse underneath, and George was only slightly bruised. After about an hour, an ambulance pulled up to the park, but Peppa's internal organs were damaged, and that hour of inactivity had serious consequences. Peppa was hospitalized with serious injuries. That day will be forever imprinted in George's memory. In vain, he asked to go on the highest ropeway.